and formally yet another welcome to another session from the ICF Bengaluru Charter Chapter. This is a slightly different session. Yes, there is learning, but it is more from a DNI's perspective. I know we all got late in the month of March. We didn't do this. We were supposed to do this. By the time I came back from holiday, Gayathri came back from holiday, Surbi got on board. We are about a month late, but better late than never. That's the idea. So we are here to celebrate women coaches in the chapter. We also have a fun activity, fun quiz for you. We will test your knowledge on International Women's Day. And Gayatri is here to present an amazing research report. I am curious to hear what she has to share with us. As I start, let me share my screen to talk about some wonderful things that we are doing as a chapter. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I did share it on 8th of March also. Very proudly, we have about 65 of the little close to 140 members are women, which is nearly 50%. 46% of the coaches in the chapter are women. Big round of applause. 5 of them are MCCs, 28 are PCCs, 18 are ACCs, and there are 14 who are in training. So this is a pretty significant number as compared to other industry areas where we are nearly 50% in coaching, which is wonderful. I also wanted to call out that the MC that we bid farewell to, 4 out of the 9 members were women. And in the new MC, we have bettered the numbers. 7 out of the 11 members, MC members are women. The icing on the cake, the first time in the Bangalore chapter history, our president is a woman. So I think Rachel deserves a big round of applause for taking on the baton from Dr. Winston. I'm sure she's going to do a phenomenal job. So with all the kudos and clapping for all the women here, a pat on my back too. I'm part of that 46%. Very happy to be a part of that 46%. With that, I introduce to all of you our DNI board member, which is Surbi. This is one of the newer portfolios. We didn't have a DNI MC member in the last board. We are still figuring out what we will be doing, but what better opportunity for us to introduce Surbi to all of you as the DNI champion for the chapter. Let us see how she helps us become more aware, helps us become more inclusive, help us become more diverse in all sorts of aspects and not just gender diversity. And that's something she's going to help us achieve in the upcoming year. With that, I stop sharing and I hand it over to Surbi to take us through a fun quiz. You're on mute.
Good.
Thank you. That's a bad habit, but it is a habit. Hello, everyone. And thank you, Shanti, for the lovely words. And it came across as a big, heavy load. Okay, there's so much to be done. Having said that, I was talking to Shanti in the morning today, and we would be reaching out to you because it's not something that's one person or one team can do. It's the whole team. The Bangalore chapter will do it together. So we would want your help to ideate, just to give your ideas. So I will reach out to you. Look for it. As we start on the nice day of celebrating the International Women's Day, what we have created is a short quiz. Interesting. We'll have some points around. And then I would have maybe 5 minutes to understand, just a heads up. I might ask some of you to share your experience with regard to DNI. So coming now, we're going to start with the quiz, and I'll share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Shanti, if I may ask you to share the link also. So this is, you could use the QR code. Shanti will be sharing the link. Otherwise, you can go to menti.com and use the code that's given at the top, center top. We have 6 people joined till now. I'm waiting for the lucky number 10 and then I'll move forward. Great. Shanti, there are 10 people who have joined. Shall we move ahead?
Yes, Surabhi, we can get started.
Yeah. That's the first question, just to know. Let me know if you are able to add the comments, if there is any challenge. And for now, since I believe everyone is okay. Thank you. I'll move on to the next question. Who is regarded as the pioneer of contemporary feminism? While you're adding, let me add, right? I've been researching and reading about it now that I'm in DEI. And it is very evident that feminism is being considered very strongly as something that is negative, connected to a negative connotation. However, feminism, very simply, means that we are standing for the equal rights for women. And it does not have to be with female. There are men who are feminist because it's about the equal rights. Great. And with that, let me announce the winners, of course, 7, but the middle one. It is Mary Wollstonecraft. Martha Fayman is an activist, but yes, she is not the contemporary. And that's the bias also, let me add, because we have heard this name more than anything else. We'll move on. Yeah. What were the root demands of the women which germinated the idea of Women's Day? What were the reasons that it started? Great. I've got great answers. And yes, 11 of you are correct. It's better pay and voting rights. Let me add, it started in 1909, and the first Women's Day, it's interesting to know, it started on 28th Feb. 28th Feb 1909 was the first because of the protest. It was called the National Women's Day. And 2013, it became the International Women's Day. Now, that's a question for you. There are many countries that has official holiday on Women's Day. That's 8th of March. How many countries are those? A hint would be it generally includes where it started from. New York is the place where the National Women's Day started, and it moved on to Europe. And that's where it spread to the world. We have 4 people who have got it correct. It's 27 countries and mostly from US and Europe. Moving on to the next one. This is my favorite. In some regions, the Women's Day is celebrated wearing a ribbon. It is purple indeed. And so it started in UK, wherein the colors that were used, early 1908, that time, the colors that were used were purple, green, and white. These were to symbolize women's equality. And now purple is connected to justice and dignity. That's what it represents now. Oh, that's about linguistically. Which continent is most diverse? That could be a trick question. Majority is incorrect. It is Africa. The 2 people, congratulations. Now, Africa is known to have 800 to 1500 different world's languages. This is the last one before we get back. Which country has been labeled the most diverse? Great. Yes, the 10 people are correct. That's India. It's been known to be really diverse culturally, linguistically. It's a mix of different things. That's what makes India diverse. And with that, we don't have the winner. But having said that, stop share. I'll come back. Congratulations to all the winners. Having said that, it was a good experience. How did you feel about that?
Interesting, some new facts to learn.
Yeah. Okay, since I have only 5 minutes before Shanti will intervene, I would want to ask, if some of you, if one of you could just share an D&I experience. How is it relevant now? What are the biases we still see? Anyone? Yes, Piyush.
So this is my daughter working in a hospital, and this was a smaller hospital. However, the person she worked with, older doctor, continuously talked about, are you married yet? When are you getting married? And when her engagement did get fixed, he used to comment on that. So that was very uncomfortable for her, but she got used to it. He said, this is how, yeah.
No.
And there was a colleague, she said, who had an experience of coming back after maternity. And she said, you really can't expect to have the similar career progression because of being a woman. And I hate to see this, but she's getting used to that idea. But these are real issues. They're still gender issues, but they are very true.
Yeah. Thank you, Piyush. Yeah. Johnny?
Thank you, Surbi. One of the things that I've been working in this DEI space for a very long time, and I had a great comment by a woman leader who, during coaching, mentioned that we would have, as a world, we would have matured in this DEI if we don't have to talk about women's rights and women's thing. As long as we still have to talk about that, we still haven't reached there. So I thought that was very profound.
Yeah. And it's very evident right now with how many, 1907 it was started. It's been more than 100 years. We are still talking about women, and the other gender, social equality we're talking about, that's just the start. There's so much that needs to be done when we talk about D&I. Yeah. With that, before I give it to Shanti, I just want a request and a support. I'll be sharing a form just to share your experiences, be it the coaching related or be it your like the personal experience that Piyush had, just to put those moments so that we can collate them and use them as our awareness within our group itself. Yeah? I'll be sharing the link just in a minute. And over to you, Shanti, dot on time.
Thank you, Surbi. That was amazingly managed.
Thank you.
Totally appreciate. And yeah, we will co-create this space of what the chapter wants to do in the D&I space. But this is a wonderful opportunity to invite Gayathri, who has done some research and will be sharing her findings with us around the research. The research is based on the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by John Gray. Whether you agree it or not, the book has lots of relevance even in today's date. It talks about various communication styles, relationships, how men and women differ, how they perceive things, how they react to things, and how that influences how our societal ecosystem is being built and developed and changing and evolving. And Gayathri and her team did a bit of a research in terms of what are the effects of these this diverse aspect on our coaching ecosystem. And look to understand how the gender differences in the selection of coaches or the coaching process has impacted either the coach or the coachee or the industry itself. So I am very excited to invite Gayathri to hear what she has to share and, see whether that resonates with us, and together can we do something about it, is the lens that I would wear as I hear Gayathri. So over to you, Gayathri.
It is research, but let me be very, very clear and give you a disclaimer that you can't consider it as a statistical research which is valid or which can be published in a professional journal. having said that, there is a lot of anecdotal data which is of value. To start with, this research was initially done by me almost 12 years ago as part of my requirement for ICF had a requirement that you must do a research paper as a submission for your ACTP. I know I sound like a dodo because many people in this call don't even know about that requirement. So I've done this research paper called, based on this book's name, said that, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. And I had talked to about 15, 20 people at that time to look at the differences. And when I did secondary research, I found that there's a lot of research on gender, but not on coaching. And even when there is research on coaching, it's all to do with sports coaching. How are women sports related coaching? There is tons of data. So this gives a little bit of a clue as to what is the pulse. So let me just share I'll share my screen with you. Okay, so you can all see this. So by the way, I had a male counterpart who helped me make these slides because I'm terrible at slides. I don't know, visually I'm very bad, So I must thank that partnership, of someone coming and making me look better. So as a youngster, so his name is Sparsh. So this has the sparsh of Sparsh here, it's his touch. So what are the coaching perspectives? So this is what the book had talked about, saying that, men are the settlers. When you complain or confide in them, they'll assume you're looking for advice. However, they themselves don't want the advice unless they ask for it. They don't like unsolicited advice. In contrast, women put more emphasis on emotions. They love to help those whom they love, and they like to give advice even when it is not asked. So obviously there's a clash. But having said that, this book was written in 1992. So like Shanti says, yes, there is a lot to take from it, but there's also a lot of criticism about it, in the sense of course, the genders are just two genders. It's almost like our planetary system has only two planets, which we recognize, which is Mars and Venus, but nobody talks about Pluto and Jupiter and other genders at all. And unfortunately, in my research also, nobody did reveal the gender as anything other than male or female, or even of their coaching. There was just one respondent who had coached transgender, but none of the coaches were of any gender other than male or female. And I think it's something we need to look at in DEI, and I know Shurabhi will be looking at that aspect also. So this is research which was done and published in the book on, it's a journal publishing, which is statistically more valid, okay? And it talks about what is the summary of findings between the gender differences. And it talks about men are seen as more assertive, more competitive, more risk-taking, and higher self-confidence. Women are seen as more agreeable, more open to feelings, more risk averse, and higher bonds. I have to warn you that this is the perception. When we look at women, this is what we think. Even we as women look at other women, if they're not agreeable or they're not very warm, we're like, no, why is she behaving like a guy? It's like, oh, she's the CEO and she's behaving like an alpha male. Anecdotally, or at least in conversation, we hear such things. But this is the general research done, saying that this is the traits which are found. Okay, now this is what I was talking about. The transgender perspectives are minimal. as very few coaches have coached in that area. And even if they're coached, unless the coachee is willing to reveal the gender or shares it, it will not be known. And research specific to gender differences, especially in our form of coaching, is minimal. Again, sports coaching, maybe because it is a multi-billion industry, the research in that is also much more. Okay. So I've done a research with about 20 people, and then I had extended it recently to more people. So let me just take you down with the research highlights, and please stop me if you have any questions on the findings. After that, of course, we'll open it up for more discussion on all the aspects. The percentage breakup of men to women coaching in corporate or executive coaching is about 70 to 80%. Okay. And I think it's also because that is the population of CXOs or CXO minus ones, which is there in the industry. So it's not like women are getting less opportunities. There are just that they don't have that many at that level. In the social sector, the ratio is somewhat reversed. More than 50% of the coaches are women. And when I say social sector, not all of it is pro bono. Some of it is also paid. Unlike a misconception that an NGO won't pay or a social sector won't pay. Personally, I've had very good experience of not only being paid more promptly than the corporate. I'm sorry to say, when they do pay, they're very nice. They feel that we have come down on our rates, etc. So most of the coaches, 50%, and many of them have almost 100% coaches as women. And anecdotally, one of them said, I did not even seek to only coach women, but it happens that only women are coming. And some others are with, organization which is coaching women. Now, the selection by the coachee is not very specific. So the coaches are not asking for male or female coaches, okay? But when they do have a coach, the issue chosen has a tendency to be little gender dependent. Now, I have not interviewed enough sponsors to know whether when they see the panel, whether they look at the gender, saying that these people are better for these issues, etc. But the coaches are gender neutral, but the issue chosen has a tendency to be gender dependent, and it's women are seen to be for relational stuff and men for task oriented stuff. Okay, so this is just a overall compilation of the kind of issues which my respondents talked about. Work-life balance is a big aspect of the coaching for my respondents. Like I said, I'm not saying it's statistically valid, but if you see, it is not appearing when the client is female and the coach is male. Everywhere else you can see work-life balance, but not when the client is female and the coach is male. There's a feeling that guys don't understand work-life balance as much as women. I think it's just I'm just guessing because that is the underlying sentiment, right? You've not been a mother, you're not even, doing the same thing. So you may not understand it as well. They come when the male to male coachee relationship is there. They're generally more task oriented and come more rapidly to goal setting. So that understanding, trust building happens either very quickly or they are able to proceed faster. Women are considered to be more willing to emote, but they also said that men also are getting there. And remember, 12 years ago, it may have been even less, but right now they are learning, especially, like look at all the TED videos. We talk about vulnerability, we talk about servant leadership and all kinds of concepts which are coming. So especially in the coaching world, I think men are also willing to discuss their emotions. Women coaches spend more time exploring and are more process oriented, but this parenting and caregiving is something which women coaches tend to get more of. Okay. It could be because as a coach, whether the coach is a male or a female, they think that I am a woman coach, so I have gone through it or I understand this caregiving aspect, because caregiving just is more generally more associated with women. In fact, I remember, when women started driving two-wheelers, I remember saying that, all the old people are riding behind women drivers. The women are taking their parents and all the old people everywhere. The guys are also taking, but it was never the same, Of course, it's not, but I think that shows the tendency for the women to become caregivers. Okay. So this is the overall findings. Shall I move on?
I had a question, Gayathri, on the previous slide. Can I ask now?
Yeah, sure.
So the process oriented, there's only one place that occurs for women coaches when coaching males. Doesn't appear with females.
It's not as prominent. It's not that nobody uses it, but it is not, it's more structured in the sense the process is not as important as the result. Okay. So the male to male, it's more task oriented. Male to female, it's more process oriented.
Okay. And female to female doesn't have that.
Yeah. So I think it's also because I think, I may be wrong, but when women and women get together, they're willing to be more ambiguous. They're comfortable with going up and down, and they're not as sequential as men are,
Yeah,
they're
maybe.
able to discuss multiple issues. So that could be the reason why it's not a clear process oriented affair. Okay.
Not as much needed. Thank you.
Yeah. And when I talked, yes.
One thing, Gayathri, that just came up as Piyush asked, one of my mentees, a woman, her statement was she feels safe to abide, the term she used was abide by the process when she coaches men. That gives her a sense of safety, but that need does not arise for her when she coaches women.
Yeah, okay, okay. That's interesting.
Strong that, if I go wrong, what will the man think is very strong for women is probably, I don't know.
Maybe possible. So the three areas where differences have come up. One is the caregiving legacy. I'm saying legacy because this is not something, just like your feminism is not something which is going to take away all the differences or make everything equal. Caregiving also traditionally has been more, a woman's issue. So that comes up a lot in the coaching. So, and they bring it up more often. We know that the roles of caregiving traditionally are more women oriented, but now this research is showing that it comes up more often in the conversation with the women coaches because they want to balance that area. I'll just come to ambition levels because I have some research which I've done on that. This third thing is adequacy. Again, anecdotal. What my coaches shared was, suppose there is a women coach and a man coach at the same level, and there is a next level to be achieved. The women coaches are looking at the job description and saying, how do I get to be more equipped so I can do that job? So they want to be 90% ready. So a lot of the conversation is, how do I get ready to do the job? With men, it's, I'm 70% ready. I think that's enough. What are the steps I need to make sure that I get that position? So there will be coaches who are more ambitious, who will definitely want to get that position. This is somewhat backed by research we have done, and we've got an XLRA Center for Women, and we've done research there, or at least collected secondary research. And the secondary research showed two things. One is women tend to negotiate with a lower salary ask than men on an average for the same job. The second piece of data from that kind of social research was that when they are appraising themselves, they are more likely to give them a 4 than a 5. So kind of they don't want to be told that you're overselling yourself. So that adequacy data came through in this research also. Many of you may be knowing that I'm a Hogan coach. I've done a session also. So there is a particular aspect of ambition, and I've done hundreds of Hogan debrief. So what I did was I analyzed the Hogan data which I have personally, just mine. This is not from some other research. Of course, it's confidential because names don't matter. Now, ambition in Hogan is defined as initiative, competitiveness, and desire for leadership. The average for the male was 63, whereas the female was 40. And it could be that the desire for leadership is also how it is expressed. It's not just internal. In Hogan, it measures if it is expressed. You having it internally doesn't matter. Now, this board is a score which is called as Human Development Survey, which measures behavior when under pressure. So when women are pushed to the wall, they become more aggressive than men, because they may wait a long time. It's marginal, but under pressure, they are just as capable of, fighting for themselves as men. But if things are just normal, their ambition level is on the lower side. So, and this is the overall major findings, which I can say that, it is important. Rest of it is, a lot of normal things like, we have everything is okay. We select gender neutral. All the other issues more or less were told it is gender neutral. And I did a lot of work. I took a lot of trouble to try and find secondary research. ICF has a research which is on DEI, but it does not talk about the breakup of the male and female coaches. And of course, transgender is just not mentioned, but I have gone through the list and there are transgender coaches in ICF. We don't, because I did a search and many people's names had come up because they put it on LinkedIn, and they have come out as transgender. There may be more who may not want to reveal. So that is this. So let me just stop here, because and any questions, any insights, please do share them. And after that, I just want to touch on one other aspect. All this research is only in India. All my coaches whom I have contacted are all in India. Cultural aspects also play a bit of part in this gender business. And if there is time and there is interest, I'll just share a bit of the research which has been done in terms of culture versus gender, because this is not necessarily the case in, say, US. Okay, so let me stop here and do let me know. I hope this made sense, but I am sure you people will add more insights to this. I'll just stop the sharing, and if there's interest, I'll share the culture part also. Yes, Ravi.
Based on my own experience, a long time back, we had gotten into diversity in our company, and it was one of the KPIs for the managers and the leaders to do that. What we found, at least this is my experience, is really depends on the role that the women have to play, both in the professionally, and you call it socially or family or whatever. It made a very, very big difference. And I've seen that transition when the person is totally single and is professional, it's a very different thing. But if that role changes and they become a mother or whatever, then the needle moves. And let me just share very personal information. Mrs. Srinivasan was a very leading professional, but she decided that when she became a mother, that it was more important for her to play the role of the mother than to be a professional. Then later on, of course, she resumed it back, but that's where the needle moves. This is my own experience.
Okay. I agree with it because I also took a break when I had a kid. I'm just saying now the awareness that, okay, you can have a break and still have a career is there. Otherwise, when
Yeah,
they
sure.
came back to the career, it was very apologetic. Okay, let me get whatever I can.
Yeah.
That apology has to go, you know. So when I
Yeah.
took a break, I was making sure that whatever little I can do, and some bit of openness also is involved in sense of, you know, do whatever is connected to your profession in whichever way. But that guidance is important. And now there are people who are shying away from the role of a mother or a wife because of the possible repercussions. So that becomes a separate issue, right? But yes, it will change, you know, depending on the role and how much can you. But now with COVID and having worked remotely from home, it's not as much an issue as it was, say, when I did it in 90s. And I'm sure, you know, your wife also did it a little earlier, but now there are possibilities. So yeah, thanks for that sharing, Ravi.
I'd like to add to that if I can. May I?
Yes, please.
So it's sort of related to my sister-in-law. Again, it's a personal thing. She is a doctor. She's a pediatric cardiologist. So she's based in New York. So what she encountered was that I asked her, like, so how are your colleagues doing? So she said, you know, I can never be what my head of the department is, because she had to give up her family, her personal life, everything to be what she was. And I was nowhere close to it. And first, in the beginning, I thought I was lazy, and that's why I'm choosing this. She has a family of 4 daughters, and she chose not to be so driven, but to get the best of both worlds. But she said I felt like very much like a loser in the earlier part of my career, because you know I was not as driven as the other person, and I didn't think that you have to give up so many things. But then, even though I gave it up, I thought I'm lazy, and that's why I'm giving up these things.
Yeah, that is true. I have my husband's cousin's wife, and I remember we had a conversation, and she used to work in Dubai, and she said, I am so career oriented. I went back after 15 days of my childbirth. So then the feeling is that, oh, I have not taken that. I am taking it easy. 1 year I'm taking off, so I'm not as good as her. So it's not just the men who create. And remember, the boss is a woman, right? So I think that is where the gender issues, for example, I don't know, I may be right, I may be wrong, but ICICI Bank had fantastic women leaders. They were all groomed by guys, KV Kamath and Wagul. We don't have that many women leaders. The women who have been groomed have, for whatever reason, I'm not casting aspersions on them, but for whatever reason, this I think could happen. Johnny?
Thank you. Thank you, Gayatri. I just wanted to share when you spoke about the guilt of going back to work after a. I think I used to work for when I was in the bank, we had an initiative that anybody who goes on maternity, there is a buddy who is actually assigned to that person, and the person who is the buddy will be taken to task if the person who's gone on maternity leave is not in line with what's happening. with the projects and what's happening with the growth in technology. And they have the freedom to extend their maternity by 6 months and 1 year and all of that. But when the person comes back, the feeling of being relevant is not the entire ownership of the person who's taken the maternity leave, but also equally the responsibility of the body. And that I thought was a very proactive
Yes.
measure that we had in ANZ. I don't know if we
Yeah.
are still continuing that, but we used to have that, not to make the person feel left out just because she's done something, which is a natural process of
Yeah, right.
universe. Right.
So my sister-in-law also, she had that 1 year maternity leave possible. She didn't take it. She said, I may keep in touch with what is happening in the company, but I would not have contributed to get a promotion quickly. So it's half the job done, but this is something which is could be internal, you know. Lara, of course, with the experience in Shell, I'm sure you're going to give us a lot of insights. Lara?
No, I was listening to the conversation and so many things that I agree with. I had a couple of thoughts. So one is, when I look at it, the role models we have in the organization make such a difference. Because if you look upwards and you see that all the women are, let's say, finished their child rearing stage, or they are single, or they are unmarried, or they are, their spouses are staying at home and looking after their kids. Immediately the culture is one that you can only get there if you don't have to look after, child care, elder care, whatever. We used to have a lady who, I won't say her name, but she's come and spoken at one of our ICF events, in fact. She used to set a really good example. So she used to look after elderly parents and young kids. And she would stop in the middle of a meeting and say, I need to take this call. It's from home. And she would give instructions to her cook on what to make for her mother. And when I started, it was bizarre because no man would ever do that. And then slowly over time, we realized it's okay to do that. She's pausing in the middle of the meeting. It's equivalent to somebody else doing it. But when I remember when I started, I used to be baffled as to what is happening here. Of course, it's not very common, not very frequent. People step out of the room. But suddenly, it opened a new door to saying, you do manage work in life, and you do manage life sometimes during work, sometimes, not all the time, of course. But I think it's, the way we are conditioned and how we look to what professionalism is, quote unquote, also makes a big difference in how you encourage or discourage people from different diversity. The other comment I had is sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
The other comment I had is I have sat in rooms in offices with all women, all corporate, working women, and completely felt like I'm not included, or I'm not similar to them. And I'm sure other women have felt the same. So you can be in a room full of women and feel different also.
Yeah.
And it is the same for men. So I think there is we always have to remind ourselves that gender is fluid, and feminism and masculinity reside on both sides of the spectrum, right? So there is a huge risk of constant stereotyping if we are not careful, because you can sit in a room full of corporate working women and feel nothing in common to what they're talking about. And the other one that I just wanted to call out is I've always been fascinated by this guilt we associate, and also sometimes I've coached a number of women who have shame around having not worked, especially when they have to look after their parents or their kids. They actually feel shame as an emotion, and deep shame and guilt. And it fascinates me because, I mean, in my personal opinion, being a parent, or looking after your parents is one of the greatest contributions you can do to the world, to send out people from your home who are well raised and well mannered, and who actually make the world a much better place from home than you do any other role. And I wonder whether enough is said about the pride of being a parent. I don't think we say enough in the world about it, but I just wanted to put these thoughts out there.
Yeah, so Lara, even the pride of being a housewife, what if I want to be the best housewife in the world? What is wrong with that goal. I don't see anything wrong. But the moment you talk to a group of women, they'll say, no, 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 could have done so much. This is what I want to do, you know. So I don't take any calls before 11:30 because I cook at home, and that housewife role is very, very important to me. So be it. But I think it's a question of setting expectations also. Remember when I did the first job after my break? Okay. So I told them timing is I don't mind a pay cut, but time is very important. I have to go home by certain time. So I would do recruitment interviews at home. So one guy came and said, and those days there was no video and all no, on the phone. So he said, if you're cooking and your cooker whistles, won't your calls get disrupted? So I said, I will tell them it's going to whistle and they will wait for the whistle to stop. You know, but look at the attitude, you know. So I think it's something to set expectation that this is what you will get from me. Yes, if you call, my Amazon delivery will come, I will get disrupted, but believe me, I will come back and finish it, you know, because that is the reality. So how much are you willing to set the expectation, I think is also a question. Lara, you wanted to say something else, or is your hand just up?
Oh, sorry, old hand.
Of course, you're an old hand. Mrinal, please go ahead.
So as you spoke about setting expectations, I also feel that you need to have that kind of a supportive environment as well. So you might set expectations, but if you don't get enough supporting environment,
Yes.
you know, it probably would fail at some point or the other. And women might get into the guilt mode. You know, I know it's not right, but you need to be strong, but sometimes, you know, despite being strong, you could, you know, fail or become vulnerable.
See, the
Support at
social,
home is too important.
yes, the social pressure is a lot.
Too much. And
It's like,
unfortunately, I don't blame the gender or even the women also for that matter. Our aunties, our uncle, our grandmothers, our parents, our mothers. We have been set in a certain form, conditioned in a certain form, and we continue to remain so despite you know, so many opportunities being available. So I think now the onus lies on all the genders, both the genders, that, you know, we
that
work
is true.
towards it.
Yeah. Yes. But it's, I think, sorry, I don't know, maybe it's relevant, but expectation setting is important. Saying,
Yeah.
okay, you do this. So yesterday I was coaching someone, and the person said, I'm very happy, but was going through a lot of constraints. So I said, how about becoming happier? So I never thought that I could become happier, you know, because I've accepted the unhappiness in my life. So let me just be in that status quo. We talk of learning agility. With learning agility, you should set a goal of becoming happier also, right?
Yeah.
So allowing yourself that permission that
Yeah.
I can seek more happiness, maybe it's
I
important.
think the newer generation is doing quite a good job at it. I feel the older generations are still a bit of conditioning from the old and trying to move into the new.
So we'll ask Shurabhi to have a multi-generational DEI thing, because, you know, goal setting, we don't know whether is the same, but yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mrinal.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I think
Yeah,
I wanna
Shivani.
So
Sure.
I recently was doing a project with a bank, and one thing I want to point out was only 5% was the women leadership in this organization. And she was having a conversation with me about her aim to bring in more women in leadership positions. And one thing that she brought is that at the lower levels of the bank, they're able to create that gender diversity and bring in more people. But, you know, one particular piece that was very interesting was women don't want to take leadership roles because they feel it's not right to disrupt a family or uproot a family and take them somewhere else. But men, on the other hand, they don't find themselves questioning it as much, and that it looks like a logical next step. So she did speak about this issue being very prevalent. And the second thing that this was doing for the women who were in leadership positions was it was also undermining their positions because people felt that they were just there to fill in a quota and not really, appreciated for the efforts or their achievements. So, yeah.
So incidentally, there's one anecdote I wanted to share where, in an IT company, there was a position open and there was two people equally capable. One was a woman, one was a man, but it involved a lot of the traveling. So the boss decided to just give it to the guy. So the girl went and asked, why didn't you give it to me? He said, but it involves traveling. He said, who said I won't travel? It could be our mindset saying that we assume that we are being nice and, not making you travel. So that may also, it may not be the women. We've done research on this 1 to 5 years. You're right. Initially, it's even more, especially in IT company, the intake is gender-wise is much higher than even 50%. Moment you go to 5 to 6, 7 years, it starts dropping a lot. So yeah, you're right.
There was one other thing I want to mention. There was a training that was conducted a few years ago in an organization on gender bias. And one thing that they mentioned there, which was very surprising to me, was when considering promotions or any hiring as well, this person mentioned that their research, which was done by Stanford, was men are judged based on their potential, but women are judged based on what they have done.
Yes, the women themselves are doing that, right? That is
Sorry.
That is the adequacy part, right? Even the women are judging themselves, saying, I am not 90% to the job description, whereas men are, that's what the anecdotal evidence is. And thanks, Piyush, for sharing this incident about Jacinda Ardern. Maybe she just didn't wanted to go, We see, as a woman, I don't want to be an icon for everyone. I will do what I want. And if it is to become a housewife or just leave everything and sit at home, so be it. Don't tell me that, you left because you couldn't handle it. Maybe I had happiness as my goal, So, yeah. And, Shurabhi talked about this feminism. I'm one of them who doesn't like that. I don't mind the word feminism, but I would not like to be called a feminist. Because my baggage of feminism is all that Gloria Steinberg burning bras and doing things, etc. So that whole baggage behind that word feminist is making me feel little bad about, saying that I am a feminist. So it's got a very negative connotation in my mind and maybe in many other people's mind. And I'm talking about women's mind. Guys are more likely to take it negatively, but even women don't take it that positively,
Lara's hand is up.
Yeah, I wanted to add the recent initiative we had started at my organization, which was a men's support group. And the back conversation to this that we had for a couple of months was, it was very fascinating. We had a lot of discussions with men. For years, I've been associated with women's networks, led the women's network for about 10 years. So I know the amount of passion and the energy, and we call in men as allies, and we do a lot of work around women. And gender, when you say gender, you automatically think women, and how do you help women to rise? But in the conversations we had in our organization, some of the men said things like, if I go to a police station and I tell the Indian police that my wife is beating me up at home, do you know how they will respond to me? Versus how a woman might go to a police station and say the same thing. And it was eye-opening in the sense of how men actually they face the same or different, at least from a volume perspective, stressors, but the avenues for them are so limited. Could be, just conditionally in just how men have not been open to reaching out for help, or we have always assumed that women are the ones who need help, or however it is. And if you look at the men's suicide rates are 4 times higher than women's. And it is, I think we are on this journey of gender balance. But it's again, gender is that spectrum, whether it's LGBTQ or whether it's male or female. The need for everyone to be heard is so high today. But a lot of organizations associate gender immediately with women. There was one, and this is on a lighter note, you all will think I'm utterly horrible for saying this, and it's a completely non-DNI statement. But when I was reading the research, it said, research says women are far likely to attempt to die by suicide, but men actually die by suicide. And I thought, oh Lord, to think of the performance over there, what does that say? But it was just, it was a slightly heartbreaking conversation to have with the men who were willing to come forward and talk about what they face and how society and even organizations actually look to them as literally having no issues in life, which is not at all true.
Yeah. Lara, look at Posh. It only talks about women. Of course, most progressive companies have made it gender neutral, but that law talks about women, and I've done a lot of training for employees, especially nurses. Gayathri, if I look at that girl, will I get, and she thinks that I am abusing her, will I get affected? One leader, he's CXO -1. He said, I was coming in an auto, it was very hot. There was this female employee going, but I was in two minds, because if I offer her a lift and she thinks I'm soliciting, what should I do? Now, that's terrible, right? For them to get into that. And I think it's partly because of the law. But the law is based on the maximum number of cases in the rural areas where this is just endemic, So it's difficult there will be people who will take advantage of that. Same way with the Dowry Act, right? There has been abuse, but it has also helped people seek justice. So it's a difficult balance.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Note, we are a little over our time.
Yes, I know.
Wrap it up. And lovely discussion. And,
Can we take a picture?
Yes,
Then
we should. Everybody who is available, if you can turn on your cameras for a second, that will be amazing. And as that's happening, and as we're taking some pictures, I am very inclined to work with DNI audience, and I truly, when I say diverse, and I truly work with diverse, includes LGBT audience, includes persons with disabilities, and of course women. That's the diversity I was talking about. Where is it? 3. Smile. I didn't smile. Thank you.
And two people are not on, that's okay. So I think, this is, since it's just an anecdotal, we can make it more robust by going into more details. And ICF has done some research, but we can talk to the global board and see what more can be done,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as Surbi said, she will share a form. If you can share the kind of work around the DNI space you have done, how you would like to contribute, participate, ideate, let us know, and Surbi and team will reach out to you to bring you into the fold of doing a good job of DNI work in the chapter. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Looking forward to seeing all of you on 15th for yet another amazing learning session. Take care.
Thank you. And thanks, Shanti, for, holding this and having the guts to continue and spend so much time and energy and money, not money, energy and time in continuing your role as learning director. You're doing a fantastic job.
I'm doing what I love.
Thanks a lot.
So in the right place.
Awesome. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.